And welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Washington, D.C. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Rashad Miller. And it looks like our players are ready to go here. Matthew Costa versus Owen Turtenwald. Both players with one loss, though. Costa's also got a draw. Too. Yeah, and they're playing the same deck. Ideal start here for Costa, starting off with the Delver of Secrets.
And that deck is the red, white, blue, or blue, white, red Delver deck.
This is a deck that Owen Turtenwald has popularized lately on his column. He's had success with it as well at some recent tournaments. He has a Ponder on turn one, so no turn one beater.
No turn one beater, but he does have a way to get rid of that turn one Delver if it does
transform. Good boy.
I was going to say flip.
You were going to say flip.
Yeah,
at some point, we're just going to say flip, but we're still sticking to the
We can
script
say flip
here.
until someone actually plays like a flip card. Both players are playing blue, white, red Delver, and we got a couple of Delvers for Matthew Costa.
Yeah, Matthew Costa also played a Wasteland to take out Owen's lone land. So if Matt can get those Delvers transformed, he is going to have an incredibly quick clock here.
The deck runs 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponders, so there's a lot of methods to make sure that that guy flips, along with the fact that over a third of the deck is instants already.
There you
so
go.
You just do it the natural way.
So Owen Turtenwald, a full grip of cards. He has a land in hand. I see a polluted Delta there. So he's going to be able to
So as with most mirror matches, there's kind of like 3 states that you can be in, where there's a card that matters, where, you know, right here is Delver because that's where you're going to be getting most of your damage through.
Sure.
The states are where one of you has the Delver, both of you have Delvers, or neither of you have Delvers.
Okay.
So right now, Costa is the one with the Delvers. Those Delvers flip. Owen's going to need to, you know, get the removal spells to get rid of both of them. He has one Source of Plowshare, which will handle one, as we see that happen.
He's going to main phase it here. He's not going to wait until Matt Costa's turn. Matt, both of these decks have 4 days in them, but Matt apparently doesn't have one, as he's not going to daze and he's going to allow his Delver to die. He looks at the top card of his library.
Doesn't look like this one's transforming yet either.
It doesn't, though. He has put it back and not drawn it yet, and he draws it now. Couldn't quite see what it was there.
That's been a really good one, or maybe not. Attack for 1.
Get in there for 1 damage. He has a Spell Pierce, a Lightning Bolt, and Umezawa's Jitte in his hand. But he's not going to play anything. I think he drew a True Name Nemesis for the turn as well. Owen has a couple of Stoneforge Mystics. See if he tries to resolve one here. He does. He knows that the coast is clear, as it was pretty likely that the Daze would have hit that Source of Plowshares before. So
and now Batter Skull becomes the card that matters, because it's a full trump for 2 or 3 Delvers. 3 Delvers in play can slightly raise a Batter Skull, but 2 doesn't do it. 1 definitely not enough.
Yeah, and especially considering that these are actually still, this is actually still a Delver of Secrets. This hasn't even transformed yet into Insectal Aberration. So Costa's going to take that moment to grab a Volcanic, which activates, which gets Lightning Bolt going and takes down the first Stoneforge Mystic. A timely draw, land draw there for Matt Costa, as he is going to be able to potentially stick a True Name Nemesis if he wants to go for it here, though, having not had a look at Owen's hand in any way.
He has options right here, like Umezawa's Jitte, because that's just as threatening, and it still gives him, it plays around Daze, and it gives him the opportunity to, you know, if that does get countered, he still has True Name Nemesis. If that sticks, it just doesn't die in this mirror match.
That's right. All right, so Swords to Plowshares right now to take down the Delver of Secrets. That way, looks like Matt Costa might have something to say, though. He's got a Spell Pierce in his hand. I think he's going to fire it off here to try to keep his Delver alive. Now, Owen decided to main phase it and not give any draw steps to Costa here.
I mean, Owen can fight back with either a Daze or a Spell Pierce of his own.
Okay.
So
he wanted to do it while Matt Costa's mana was tapped then.
Yeah.
And he's considering which one he wants to do here.
I have to imagine that Daze is going to be the play, because he doesn't have another land drop in his hand.
And he gets to just replay the land anyway.
So there's no reason to use the Spell Pierce. The Spell Pierce still has a little bit more value. There aren't a lot of creature spells that
but if
the Daze is really going to target, except for True Name Nemesis. So if that's on his mind,
that's got to be. He knows how good the card is. He's playing it in his deck himself. And yeah, Spell Pierce indeed.
Yes, he does go with the Spell Pierce. Definitely saving the Daze to try to snag a True Name Nemesis if possible. But all it takes is one more land like that one right
there. It is. And now Matt Costa knows that he can play through Daze there. Also, Costa had to have the read after Owen took that long. Could have been a force of will decision as well, but you know, Daze was the more likely culprit, and now Costa looks to be in excellent shape with a True Name Nemesis, and it's going to be carrying an Umezawa's Jitte shortly as well.
Right. Owen still has some fight left. I mean, he can get his Stoneforge Mystic on the battlefield.
Yep.
And I guess with the Jitte, it's really not good. That doesn't let him get his Battle Skull online. So
no, it doesn't. The Jitte is going to pick up a couple of counters next turn.
And that's all it takes to get rid of the Stoneforge.
That's right.
So he's got to dig for some answers.
Doesn't find any here. He finds a Force of Will, a Delver of Secrets, and an Arid Mesa.
None of those get the job done.
No, I don't know that he has anything that gets the job done.
I mean, Owen's worst enemy is already in play.
Yeah, it's his nemesis.
It's true. The truest of named nemesis. What was it, Nemesis?
Nemesis.
Nemesis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Owen plays the Stoneforge. He goes and gets Umezawa's Jitte of his own, but I don't think that's going to get it done.
Yep. No. Equip, attack, hit you for 3.
And kill your Stoneforge Mystic. After the shuffle.
A few small differences in deck lists here. Matt Costa has one Grim Lavamancer in the main that Owen Turtenwald doesn't. So there's a few differences here, but basically the same deck. And sure enough, Stoneforge Mystic falls to the Umezawa's Jitte, and Owen Turtenwald is left with no permanents outside of his lands.
Right, this Jitte is actually pushing Matt Costa over the edge here. If it were just a True Name Nemesis, Batter Skull on its own would hold it at bay.
Yes.
Because, you know, it wouldn't attack anymore.
Right.
And it would be reserved back to block to prevent all the life gain. But right now, only thing Owen can do is just kind of go through the motions. He has a couple of plays. He could play these 2 cards right here. And this Stoneforge Mystic is going to bite the dust the same way that the last one did.
Yeah, and I mean, he also doesn't even bother to search because he knows that all his equipment's either in hand or on the battlefield, so Costa gets to keep attacking, drop Owen Turtenwald down to 9, use the 2 counters to control the board by taking down the Stoneforge Mystic, and does he have a follow-up play here?
Well, Owen's definitely the type that he will not concede. He's just going to play this out.
Oh, for sure. Correctly so.
Yeah, you should always do that under, you know, most circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Delver of Secrets.
Now this gives him the opportunity to equip the Jitte and, you know, get some counters of his own. Most likely those counters are going to be used to gain some life, just so that Owen can see another card.
Yeah, but I mean, his Delver's dead here anyway. True Name Nemesis hits one more time, and Delver down. And the writing is on the wall here in game 1. That's a Grim Lavamancer. It's going to get Swords to Plowshare.
Found a target.
Owen's going to untap, find a Force of Will, and that is going to do it. Scoop him up. So first game goes to Matthew Costa, the first player to stick a True Name Nemesis on the battlefield, and it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, True Name Nemesis became the mid-end game plan for these decks, especially, and it's funny to say that for something that only costs 3 mana, but 3 mana that's late game for a lot of legacy decks, and the power of that card is just, you know, we just saw it there against the decks where they have to win by attacking with creatures.
Right.
True Name Nemesis just says, you know what, I'm the best at doing this.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how you do it anymore. If you don't have a True Name Nemesis, you're going to lose this race.
That's true. And we've seen that time and time again. It's just so hard to interact with that card. There are cards available in the Legacy card pool that do it. We've seen some True Name Nemesis die this weekend, but it is tough. And in these colors, it's really rough. Looking at Matt Costa's sideboard, He's got, take a look at Owen Turtenwald here while I chat about the sideboard. Owen's the 22nd ranked player on the top 25 pro rankings currently, Platinum Pro.
Look at that piercing stare.
Yeah, he does have that. He does.
Straight into your soul.
He will look into your soul.
He sees your soul, plays on Magic Online under the Magic Online name QAZWSXE.
EDCRFVTGB.
TTGB.
Yeah.
Good old
YHN.
Guy.
Yeah. But looking at Costa's sideboard, you guys can take a look at the Esper Stoneblade deck and how it's made up. Not a whole lot going there. I see 3 Meddling Mage.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see a Meddling Mage for Matt Costa naming True Name Nemesis.
Well, that's a weird thing that's a weird strategy to go with, because if you're in a mirror match and you bring in Meddling Mage, any card that you Meddling Mage so that your opponent doesn't play, you can't play it either.
Oh, true.
So if you play a Meddling Mage, you name True Name Nemesis. Now you can't trump your opponent with your own True Name Nemesis.
So you would have to actually pull your True Name Nemesis out, and then that gets pretty sketchy.
Or it becomes a tempo-ish play. If you're ahead in the game, then you can say, oh, the only thing you can use to win this game now is a True Name Nemesis.
I see.
And then you play a Meddling Mage on True Name Nemesis. But
that does get sketchy.
For one, it's very situational. It's not a very good mirror match card. And 2, red-white Blue Delver, it can kill a Meddling Mage like that.
Yeah, very easily.
It's like Swords of
Bolts and Swords.
And they're probably bringing in Power Chasms, which
no,
True Name Nemesis.
Neither of them have it.
No power. Nope, they don't have.
And it does not kill True Name Nemesis either.
Oh, it actually
so it's just brutal. But yeah, they just don't really have any outs to opposing True Name Nemesis outside of Meddling Mage, and you mentioned the downsides to playing that strategy too. So I'm curious to see what these guys come up with. Owen's got 3 True Name Nemesis in the main, and he has 1 sitting in his sideboard. Costa's got 2 True Name Nemesis in the main, and none on the board.
Yeah, I mean, this may be a situation where we see very little sideboard. Maybe a Vidillion click in and out for one of these players. If they have more True Name Nemesis, like Owen does, you bring that in because that card's really good. Grim Lava Mass, I think Owen's sideboard has a lot more options because he has more interactive cards like the Grim Lava Master and the True Name Nemesis that he can bring in, whereas Matt Costa already has those cards in his deck.
Right.
There aren't a lot of cards in the main deck that are bad in this matchup. Days gets a little bit worse because, it's easy to play around.
Yes.
Spell Pierce is really just a fight back card. It doesn't counter any of the important cards, which are creatures.
Stoneforge, Mystic, and stuff,
So Spell Pierce is probably the weakest card in both of these decks.
Okay.
So we're probably going to see less of those and more creature interaction.
Okay, so let's see if that bears fruit here. Polluted Delta Go from Owen Turtenwald. Stifle's not an issue in this matchup. He's not worried about that.
I'd have to imagine that both these players know each other's lists somewhat.
That's the question, though, because like the fact that Costa's only got 2 True Name Nemesis, that definitely matters when you're playing on Owen's side when you have 4 and how reactive you want to be. I mean, if you know that he's only got access to 2 total, I think you just shrug and say, well, he hit the land he needed. I had the days for it, but he resolved one of his 2 True Name Nemesis, and it took over the game, and I can live with that. Where if you're in Costa's seat and you know that Owen could have up to 4 here post-board, you're like, well, this is a huge issue.
Or maybe you then bring in the Meddling Mage.
And you take out your 2 True Name Nemesis and just run it and just hope. I mean, it's not a great plan, but
I'd probably leave mine in.
You would?
Whichever one I got first.
Okay.
I'd go with the plan.
Sometimes you get both.
The plan.
Yeah.
And then you play your True Name Nemesis and you follow up with a Meddling Mage.
Okay, sure. Here's a Pyroblast from Owen Turtenwald to take down the Delver of Secrets.
Yet another way to kill a Meddling Mage.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no shortage of those. Yeah, it's just rough. You look at the sideboards, there's just not a lot you can do. Matt Costa in the tank here, trying to decide if he wants to pull the trigger on a daze here.
Threat-like. So if all of his cards are reactive, and he only had the 1 threat, you have to really consider saving your 1 threat.
I don't know that he actually had a way to save it. I think he might have been posturing there. I saw a Brainstorm. Wow, and a follow-up Wasteland as well. Interesting there for Owen Turtenwald, too. He did have a land drop, even though he played his removal spell without protection from daze. So he was clearly okay with getting daze there and didn't.
I mean, it's still the same setback as far as tempo and the amount of land in play.
What do you mean? Well, I just meant he could play his land first and then play it to make sure that it resolves through daze, right?
Yeah, I guess he could have done that. But if Costa brings his land back, he's still down the same amount of land.
I see what you're saying.
And now he's up a land, and he still has a wasteland.
Okay.
And now he keeps him on 1-0 for 2 more turns the same way.
Good point. Yeah, now, I mean, obviously the land being in the graveyard is significantly different than being in Costa's hand, but land drops-wise, very, very reasonable. And Stoneforge Mystic is going to resolve. Owen knows that, or is pretty sure of it. And there it is, Umezawa's Jitte back to the hand. Let's see if this Delver is going to flip. It does off of a Ponder.
Yep, and this is the equipment that is obviously the best equipment for creature on creature battles.
Yes.
So it's going to be
ever.
I mean, yeah, ever exactly. And we saw last game how it just completely took over the game. Owen actually had some ways to fight back.
Yeah.
The true name Nemesis, but the Umezawa's Jitte just pushed him right over the edge.
It did. Jitte killed 2 different creatures that game by itself. Grim Lavamancer resolves. Matt Costa going to go find a land here.
Yep.
Lavamancer, of course, has Summoning Sickness, so if Turtenwald gets to untap with his Stoneforge Mystic, he could get the equipment into play uncounterably, though
he wouldn't have anything to equip it on.
That's
just
right.
Yet.
And the Lavamancer can take down the Stoneforge Mystic before that can happen as well.
Yeah, it's got 2 activations with the 4 cards in Matt's graveyard right now.
Yeah.
It really only takes one well-timed one to break up any type of offense that Owen can really put together.
Owen, it looks like he's got lands.
He's got a land and a Batterskull.
A Batterskull and his Jitte.
Yeah.
So not a great hand here for Owen, especially since Matt does have a way to deal with Stoneforge Mystic, which is really double trouble here, just because not only does it prevent Turtenwald from putting the equipment into play, but it also just means that he doesn't have anything to put it on.
Yeah, in a lot of matchups, Stoneforge Mystic is your win condition. And in this matchup, it's just a tutor for a card that you're probably going to have to hard cast, because if you're a creature with 2 toughness, you're not sticking around too long. You're sticking around just long enough for your opponent to say, however long your opponent wants to stick around. Yeah. That's how long it's going to be there.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a tutor that also takes a card out of their hand. Pretty sweet. All right, so let's see what Turtenwald has lined up for the turn here. Costa drew a lightning bolt off that Ponder as well. So he has multiple ways to deal with creatures, and not a great one, but a True Name Nemesis is one of the 3 cards. 2 of them are lands, so he's going to be able to shuffle away one, I believe. So
I think he wants that True Name Nemesis.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just mean the 2 lands are miserable, but the True Name Nemesis is, well, it's one of the best cards in the matchup, especially given Turtenwald's hand of Jitte plus Batterskull.
Yeah, and he left the Wasteland on top, so I have to imagine he wants to fire that off at some point. Probably not now. He wants to use his mana for the Jitte and then have True Name Nemesis next turn.
I mean, he could also take out Costa's red source and potentially shut down Grim Lavamancer, though he doesn't know if that's the case. All right, here it is. Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull. Waste no time. Let's get that thing into play and then carry on from there. That way, he gets value from his Stoneforge Mystic, he gets the Batterskull on the battlefield, and the Grim Lavamancer is marginalized in a big way here.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, Matt didn't get a second red source, because he would have been able to deal with the Batterskull token, you know, just once, and then get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic. But that's not going to be an option. He's going to dig for something to get him out of this situation. I found a Source of Plowshare.
So you're saying he could have used the Grim Lavamancer plus the Lightning Bolt to take down the Germ?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But now he has a Source of Plowshare, so he can basically take out the Germ if he wants to right now. That's probably the best target, because that Stoneforge Mystic, he's gotten all of the value out of that already. But he's going to want to wait until like the end of Owen's turn so that he can get rid of the token and then get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic to strand the Batterskull in Owen's hand if he decides to return it for 3 mana.
Okay. We're in the middle of a ponder here from Matt Costa. He used his red mana source to cast the ponder, and he does in fact put it back on top of the deck and draws a wasteland for the turn, or for his off of his ponder.
So he left the Source of Plowshare on the top.
Okay.
Of his library. Looks like that wasteland's gonna fire off and kill the other wasteland.
Okay. So Costa protecting his mana base, interestingly, by using up some of his mana, but that's how that goes sometimes. There's that True Name Nemesis that Owen had set on top of his library. He's also got a land down there or something.
And a few land.
Yeah.
Owen has to be wary, obviously, of counter magic. So he might be content to just stick with this board's position right here to see how far it gets him.
Okay.
Because throwing out True Name Nemesis unprotected,
he doesn't want to get it Force of Willed or dazed.
He can't fight back. He can't fight this, because there is a Force of Will over at Matt Costa's hand, and he can't really fight back this True Name Nemesis.
Right.
Now, he doesn't need it to win.
No.
But it's a win. Like,
yeah.
If it goes down, if it hits the battlefield, it's a win. It looks like he's going to take the chance, though.
He also could just play the Umezawa's Jitte, and that plays around days.
Yeah, but
nope, he's going for it.
I mean, he could have waited to activate that fetch land if the plan was Umezawa's Jitte. There's some value in leaving your fetch land there until you absolutely need to, especially if you draw like a Brainstorm.
Good point.
Give you another shuffle effect.
Good point. So True Name Nemesis ostensibly on the stack here. And yeah, it's going to get Force of Wills.
It ain't on the stack no more.
Nope. And Matt Costa has a land up to play around a daze coming back at him, though Turtenwald doesn't have it.
Yeah, Matt knows about the Jitte, but there's still 2 mystery cards from Matt's perspective, so he doesn't know what those are, but he knows one of them probably isn't a daze, and there's the Source of Plowshare that's going to take out the Germ token, and there's the activation to strand the Battle Skull on the battlefield without anything to do.
Wow, so this was a play that you had talked about a minute ago, Rashad, and it's worked out beautifully here for Matt Costa, as he's got a Batter Skull with nothing to put on it on Owen Turtenwald's side, and no shenanigans with the Stoneforge Mystic to bounce and put it back into play. So Brainstorm, well, there's another Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, I mean, all of these creatures are already blanked by that Grim Lava Master that are in play. Owen's really, his only line is to develop his mana base and get up to 5 mana. He can still play a land, one of them being a fetch land, so he can shuffle away this Jitte, which isn't valuable anymore. And then he can return the Battle Skull to his hand and next turn replay it, and then have a 4/4 lifelink again.
Okay.
And you know, that puts us back at even, really. Actually slightly in favor for Owen, you know, bar nothing else happens.
As long as he gets a chance to resolve the Batter Skull and actually hit with it. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a long way to go.
But you know what? You got to do what you got to do. I heard a story where turn 1 Blood Moon was played against Owen, and he couldn't play anything but red spells or free spells or Batter Skull.
Right.
And he played a Batter Skull and rolled it victory.
Yeah. Turn 1 Blood Moon against this deck is really nasty, but he was able to win.
Most decks is pretty nasty.
It's true. A lot of them.
A bunch of good ones, but not like that.
All right, he found a Lightning Bolt there, so he could use that to take down the Grim Lavamancer and
play
try to get of his own. He could also use it to take out the Insectal Aberration. So he's got options here now. Looking much, much better, though. I got to say, Matt Costa's side of the board looks pretty sweet. He has a True Name Nemesis in his hand. Doesn't have the lands to cast it yet, but...
So it looks like Owen's going to put the daze in his hand just so that he can fight back a little bit
beautiful.
later. Yeah. Now, next turn, he wants to kill the Lava Master and then play a Lava Master of his own, and probably also the Stoneforge Mystic. And then that Lava Master is just going to take over the game.
And there it is, a land for Matt Costa, and he's going to walk right into the daze here from Turtenwald, and Turtenwald's got to pat himself on the back for that one.
That's really the only card, other than Force of Will, that can deal with the True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, and here we go. Lightning Bolt is going to take down Grim Lavamancer and let Owen play his own Grim Lavamancer and a Stoneforge Mystic this turn.
There we go.
So huge turnaround here for Owen.
Back to the Jitte plan. Well, you know, just because there's no reason not to. That was actually a pretty clever play to put the Jitte back into his deck.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it gives,
you know,
it was actually a card advantage play because it gives that Stoneforge Mystic another card to get, and the Brainstorm replaced it.
Right.
And so he actually got a card out of it instead
of
having another dead Stoneforge Mystic.
Which is awesome. Sure. Speaking of Stoneforge Mystic, that's what Costa has here. He's also got a Lightning Bolt in his hand, which will, take out either the Mystic or the Lavamancer on the other side, depending on what his game plan is. You can see he's pondering that right now, carefully considering all the options and what line of play he wants to take here.
Yeah, because right now, this Grim Lavamancer is threatening to make whatever equipment that Costa gets irrelevant.
Right.
So...
Well, yeah, because even if he gets a Batter Skull, he's not going to get a chance to get it into play.
Exactly, because you can just get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic. But there is a Lightning Bolt in Costa's hand.
Yeah.
So the Lightning Bolt, the target for the Lightning Bolt is definitely Grim Lavamancer.
Okay. There it goes. Lavamancer down.
So now we kind of have a fair game of Magic.
Again, this has been an absolutely fantastic game.
Still a little bit in favor for Owen because of the Batter Skull.
Uh-huh.
But...
isn't Owen going to get a chance to cast and equip right now? The Jitte in his hand?
Did he also get a land? Because if he has a land, he can use... No, he didn't.
No.
Okay, if he had a land, he could have returned the Batter Skull and replayed it. I don't know if equipping Jitte and attacking is... I mean, it's still a good play.
I mean, he can take out the Stoneforge Mystic or the Insectal Aberration with that.
He can take out whichever one he wants.
He would lose his Mystic, though.
Mystic has done his job. Owen is one land away from just having natural Batter Skull.
Okay. Recursion.
Recursion, just casting it. He's considering that. I mean, they're both valid plays. And that's why he's like, yep, you know what? I'm one land away from this Stoneforge Mystic not being that good. And he also has a second one. He has a backup one in his hand. So, if he doesn't get the land this turn, he can play the Stoneforge Mystic. And then he's back in the same situation where he guarantees to be able to recur his Batter Skull again.
Owen's considering what it is that he wants to take down here.
I think you need to get rid of that Stoneforge Mystic right now.
Because how come?
Well, there's one card in the Costa's hand, and it's Umezawa's Jitte.
It's Jitte.
So then you wait. You wait to see which creature gets equipped with the Jitte, and then you kill that one.
Okay. He also can just use one counter, and that's what he does here, because he can just use one because the Delver took a point of damage, and it looks like that's what he wants to do.
This is actually a great play because now even if Costa was able to put a Jitte on his Stoneforge Mystic and attack, he could use the other counter to make it a 0 power, and then he wouldn't get any counters.
Love that.
But he drew Wear and Tear, and Wear and Tear is just a beating in this matchup.
All right, here's Stoneforge Mystic. Unfortunately, nothing else to actually search up with it, I don't think.
Unless he boarded in his Sword of Feast and Famine.
That's possible, but but it didn't happen this time.
Right,
and Owen just passes the turn back, which is going to prompt Matt Costa to put in Umezawa's Jitte with his Stoneforge Mystic. Move to his draw step. He has a Volcanic Island and a Wear and Tear.
This is a really good game.
This is a great game.
So he plays a land. He has a Wear and Tear. He can't attack because he just throws his Mystic away. So all he can do is use his mana and equip and pass the turn. Yeah,
that one counter on that Jitte of Owen Turtenwald's is a big problem here, especially because now he can pump his Stoneforge Mystic as well.
Yeah, now that one counter becomes 3 counters.
Yeah. Attack you.
Well, Wear and Tear has something to say about this.
That's correct.
I think the play is to block, and I think that will prompt using that last counter, and then you Wear and Tear.
But then don't you lose your Stoneforge Mystic?
Yeah, you lose your Stoneforge Mystic, but...
You do get a couple of counters potentially on your Jitte.
Well, you're not going to get any counters on your Jitte.
All right, there we go. Oh, wow, and Owen had drawn days for the blowout there.
That was a blowout.
Huge, huge, huge play there for Owen Turtenwald, who now looks to be in the driver's seat. He's going to return Batterskull to his hand and say, go. It's a brainstorm for Matt Costa. Can he find an answer here?
I don't know that there's going to be 2 cards that can answer this situation.
Yeah, the problem is the Jitte having 2 counters on it means that most of Costa's creatures are just dead.
Yeah, every single one of them are dead except for True Name Nemesis.
That's right.
Or Batterskull.
Right.
A land in a Batterskull would have been, something.
Yeah.
But it still would have been outclassed by the, the Stoneforge misses, which can get +4/+4. And now, you know, he can get +8/+8, but he's gonna increase the clock. With those counters.
He's trying to shut the door as quickly as possible. And here's a true name Nemesis, which is going to do a great job of shutting that door. This is going to make a one-turn clock here for Owen Turtenwald, and unless Matt Costa finds something, he doesn't. And Turtenwald evens it up in a really hard-fought, grindy, mid-range type game here in Legacy.
You know, it was. I mean, this game was going back and forth. I wish we had like a little, like a tennis ball that goes back and forth just to see who has that little bit edge. But you know, there was a point where Matthew Costa had his Grim Lava Master active, a threat on board, and like one counter spell in his hand, and Owen drew, you know, enough Stoneforge misses to get enough threats on his side to then sneak his Grim Lava Master in play to get Grim Lava Master advantage. And then, you know, it just went back and forth, and eventually it was Jitte again that won this game.
It was. You mentioned it, one of the best, if not the best cards in creature-based matches.
I don't think there's been a better one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think. When Jitte was a card you could play in Standard, I'm trying to think of a deck that didn't play it. And there weren't.
Yeah.
Want to know why? Because the legend rule was different back then.
Yeah.
And people had 2 to 3 Jittes even in their sideboard just to be Jitte removal.
Right.
Vindicate target Jitte, because your creature, any creature you play plus a Jitte, it's like a big problem.
That's right. It's particularly well suited here as well for the Legacy creature metagame, because the creatures are generally small. They all have to cost 1, 2, maybe 3 mana, and that means that they are vulnerable to being killed by Jitte, and this matchup is exemplifying that in a big way. As you know, we saw an active Jitte with 2 counters on it, and there was no cards in Matthew Costa's deck that he could draw outside of Batterskull and True Name Nemesis. It didn't just die on contact.
Yeah. Now Jitte really isn't a 4-of card for Legacy, because there's going to be, I mean, the variety of decks that can be played. There's a lot of decks where you play a Jitte and they just look at it and say, I don't really care about that card. But the fact that Stoneforge Mystic is like a thing, there's no reason not to put 1 Jitte in your deck just as insurance against any mirrory or fair deck matchups. It's just going to push you over the edge, no doubt about it. I guess so. Then everything comes back to Stoneforge Mystic again.
Looks like we have a haircut mirror match here too.
I think somebody has the edge. It looks like Owen had his haircut
slightly more recently.
Yeah, slightly more recently. So that edge goes to Owen just a bit.
All right.
And over in the back, we have like a hat mirror match.
A hat fight, yeah?
Yeah, we got a hat fight.
From a hat field?
Yeah, one's a hat field, the other one, you know, I think it just has a closet of hats, not a whole field.
All right, so players are now presenting their decks, and
let's see
if we've got some keepers.
Lightning bolts and brainstorms. I didn't see any land over in Matt Costa's. Oh, he has 1. That's enough for Legacy.
That absolutely can be enough. It means it's going to put a little more pressure on his cantrips here, because his opponent is playing Wasteland, and he's got to be careful not to just get Wastelanded out of the game. But yeah, 1-landers in Legacy are generally keepable, and yeah, he's going to start with a Ponder to make sure that he has a little bit of an insurance plan going here.
Now, he really needs to find a land with this Ponder. He can't keep that.
Yeah,
he cannot keep that
there was
Ponder.
no land there.
He has to shuffle and hope to draw a land, and if he doesn't draw a land, his last hope are those brainstorms. And the worst feeling in the world is when you cast a brainstorm looking for a land and you just don't see one.
Yeah, and with no shuffle effect.
Yeah. You're just done. You're brainstorm locked for, you know, the next 2 to 3 turns.
Oh yeah, it's just the bad news bears, man. You're just like, well, and here we are. Know what's coming. Yeah, and you're right. He had to shuffle there, because the brainstorms are fine, but they don't do anything if he gets wastelanded, and he's actually on the verge here, because
this is what happens.
Boom, right there.
Especially when you have
Watch this.
Lands.
Nothing from Matthew Costa on his turn, and Owen Turtenwald has a land. Does Costa find a land? No. He's going to have to discard here, and he discards a Stoneforge Mystic. This could be quick if Turtenwald can get off to a quick start, but remember, there's a lot of counter spells that don't actually cost anything in this match as well.
Yeah, but only one of them works right now, which is Force of Will.
That's correct.
Owen has a daze in his hand, so he knows he has this. And the fact that no Force of Will happened,
means that Costa doesn't have one.
No, it also means that these daisies are still alive.
Yes.
That's what it means.
Wow, so Turtenwald firmly in the driver's seat as Costa kept a one-lander with a ponder, was wastelanded on turn 1 and hasn't seen another land since. And next thing you know, we've got a batter skull.
That's a nice germ. He's like, what's going on
it's
here?
An unhappy germ, yeah.
Hit
you for 5.
Meh.
And Owen Turtenwald is going to try to close the door as quickly as possible by playing a Delver of Secrets as a follow-up play. And poor Matt Costa here cannot buy a bucket. No lands for him.
You know, and he really had to keep that hand. Double Brainstorm and a Ponder. You have to keep, especially with the other action he had. He had Lightning Bolts, and I think he has a Delver.
Yes.
That's what you want to see.
Yep.
You don't want to see 2 or 3 land.
All right, here's the land, and it's just the dagger land. It's a wasteland.
And he has to keep it.
Yeah.
Because he needs that land to fight around days and to play 2 castles.
And that's going to do it. Owen Turtenwald runs him over in the 3rd game. Wasteland you. No follow-up lands for Matthew Costa. You see him shake his head. Tough beats for Matt there. And Owen Turtenwald wins 2-1.
You hate to see a match that had such good games, game 1 and game 2.
It's a pity.
You know, it end up being, one player only drawing 1 land. Has to keep. It's a pretty good hand, but it's getting wastelanded after you don't find a land off of your ponder. 3 cards plus shuffle. What can you say? That's legacy. It looks like, are we going to be able to see it? We are going to be able to see a game 3, maybe, between these players?
Could be.
At least a game 2. But we could talk a little bit about their decks. What are you thinking?
The way I did it is bad.
This is game 3.
Okay, let's take a look at their decks here. So
it might be a quick one as I see the first list, which is Mark Taco.
Yeah, and he's playing either Ant or Teps.
I like to call it.
This looks like Ant.
Yeah.
There's no red here.
I don't know that we can. I'm going to be the legacy deck name, not the guy.
Okay.
And say that Teps actually stood for the Extended Perfect Storm.
I know. Everybody knows that.
Extended isn't a format anymore.
Yeah, they know that too.
We're in Legacy.
They changed it to the Epic Storm.
Right. So we can call it that, but you keep saying Teps.
But that's what they call it.
Teps.
The Epic Storm.
Teps is the Extended Perfect Storm.
No. It's called Teps.
I'm a lot older than you.
You're a few months older than me.
All right, enough about that. Ant
yeah, but this one is actually Ant. Yeah.
All right, and we have Alex Hatfield over here, who had made his name playing a lot of, as of recently, High Tide.
Yeah, High Tide was his deck.
But he's not playing High Tide now. He's playing a bug deck. There's no Charlotte's Angel in here, so this is just Team America.
Oh, good old-fashioned.
Yeah, it's old-fashioned Team America. He's got
does he have Tomb Stalkers?
He
does.
Yeah. And Abrupt Decay. That's the the additional card for this. It has a disfigure. This is Team America, made by Canadians, I believe. I can't remember. Or it actually
there was Canadian Threshold.
No, there was Canadian Threshold. I think this was actually made by an Australian team.
Okay.
And they named the deck just to poke fun
at
naming conventions, but it's a bug deck. It's very mid-rangey. It has discard. It has Kim the Turok, which is one of the most evilest of discard spells.
It is.
I think a lot of people may not be playing Magic anymore because of Dark Beetle, like Kim the Turok, and then something else.
It probably does have a lot of notches in its arrow. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we haven't seen a deck like this in a while. I'm curious, Alex Hatfield sitting at 10-2, it's clearly working for him.
I mean, it still has all of the tools it needs.
It does.
It has Him to Turok, it has Deathrite Shaman, it has all of the mid-rangey things. It also has Force of Will, so it can compete with the combo decks. It can compete with the creature decks because it has a great suite of removal, and it has some big finisher. It has Tarmogoyf to hold the ground plus be a finisher, and it has Tombstalker. A lot of people can't really deal with a Tombstalker.
No. Big flyer and cheap. All right, so we're underway here. Deathrite Shaman for Alex Hatfield, really nice opener, but Mark Taco has
off to the races?
I don't know. He played the Lotus Petal. Yeah. That usually is an indicator of somebody who is about to attempt to go off here, as they'll traditionally sandbag those Lotus Petals to add to storm count.
Exactly, unless he wants to play around days, because Alex Hatfield does have 4 days in his deck, so you might have seen one between games 1 and 2.
He's going to play a preordain here.
Yeah, this was definitely the play around days.
I mean, are you really going to sack your Lotus Petal to pay for days?
Probably.
Jeez, aggressive.
You know, sometimes it's just the threat. And you know, it's still a 1-for-1. Do you want your Lotus Petal to be 1-for-1, or do you want your card selection engine to be 1-for-1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that the Storm deck cares more about that precious mana source, but I don't know. All right. He's considering his options here. He's got another Lotus Petal in his hand.
He really can't. He doesn't have what it takes in his hand right now to go off. He has to get really, really lucky. He has a Brainstorm, and you have to hit something off of that Brainstorm. I think he has to just set up for a turn 3 win with a Duress backup on turn 2. Now, one of his fears, obviously, is Hymn to Turok, because, you know, a second turn Hymn to Turok just changes all plans.
Right.
Everyone's plans change.
Can completely rip his hand apart. And if it hits the right cards, it can make it so he doesn't have the ability to go off.
So Mark drew
an Empty the Warrens?
Yeah, Empty the Warrens. So maybe
yep.
he could actually empty right now for some number of tokens. Probably 8.
That comes in out of his sideboard. He's got 1 of.
See if Alex has any way to interact with that. He has Golgari Charm in his sideboard. Not sure if he brought it in. You know, if he had some foresight, he might have brought in 1 or 2. But if he doesn't have it and it's empty, like, resolves, that could be it. There's a lot of interaction. You know, Deathray Shaman can block 1, maybe gain a life eventually somewhere, but a bunch of 1/1s will run you over pretty fast. Mark's definitely doing the math here.
He is. He's trying to see if he does decide to go off, what are the chances that it succeeds, and how big of an Empty of the Warrens is he able to actually go off for?
Yeah, I think he's also trying to decide if he wants his this 1 extra mana to be used for Brainstorm or Duress.
Speaking of counter spells, there's a Spell Pierce from Alex Hatfield.
Storm counts at 2. Storm counts at 3, actually. Spell Pierce, the Lotus Petal, and the Brainstorm.
Okay.
They all added to the Storm count. So
it's
that's
true
3 already.
He's grabbing a land. He had a Badlands. It's going to be a Underground Sea here for Mark Toko.
So he has a Dark Ritual. He also has a Lion's Eye Diamond, which he won't be able to use for mana.
But it still adds to his Storm count?
It still equals 2 Goblin tokens, which is probably more important right now because all he needs to do is get to 4 mana, and he's well beyond 4. So there's the Ritual. So that's spell 4.
All right, so this is going to come down to, does Alex Hatfield have a Force of Will or not pretty quickly here, right?
Force of Will.
Because he
can get rid of 1 of the copies of Empty.
Okay, so that's not going to do it either.
There's extra black mana. This Duress is going to fire off first just to look for a Flusterstorm.
I see. And there it is, Duress.
And it's 2 more Goblins.
Yep. I see a Daze and a Force of Will in hand for Alex Hatfield, but
both of those spells add to the Storm count as well.
That's the problem here. He's got to feel like if he's going to get emptied here, this is just getting worse and worse for him.
Yeah, that Force of Will is going to get rid of 2 Goblin tokens one way or the other. I mean, the best way for it to do it is for him to wait for whatever the Storm spell is to go on the stack and counter 1 of them.
Okay.
Because if he counters this way, it actually doesn't get rid of any of the Goblin tokens. He just adds 2 more.
Exactly. He just adds 2 more. And yeah, he's like, fine. Force of Will, Daze, Verdant Catacombs.
I think you get rid of the Daze.
That would effectively blank the Force of Will. And he does. So things looking good for Mark to go off here, and not a lot of answers on Alex's side. And there's the Lion's Eye Diamond as well. He's counting up his Storm count just to make sure. Crack both of these and play an Empty of the Warrens. What was it for? 6, 7, something like that?
It was for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. All right. So 14 Goblin tokens means...
I think we may actually have Goblins in the feature match area.
All right. Well, there's going to be a lot of them in a moment, and they're gonna kill Alex Hatfield in 2 swings potentially here. Alex does have a Deathrite Shaman, which can not only profitably block a token, but also can gain him a couple life potentially. I don't think there's any creatures in graveyards right now, though.
There aren't any creatures in the graveyard yet.
Yeah. Did he draw another Deathrite? He did.
That helps.
That does help. Alex is he's going to take
14,
12 here.
He's going to take 12, and then it's not enough right now because he takes 12, and then there's still 12 left.
And then he's hit 8, and then yeah, so that would do it then. All right, so Mark Tucko looks to be in the driver's seat here. Draws his card for the turn.
There's a little graphic that says 14 over that stack.
That's right. There's 14 goblins in that pile, and he turns all of them sideways at once and just says go. 2 of them block. So 12 damage is going to hit Alex, dropping him down to 8. And does he have any outs here?
Unless he has a creature already in his hand.
Nothing.
He doesn't.
He draws a land, and this looks like it's going to be it. I think Mark is going to improve to 11-2, and he does indeed. The firm handshake there from Alex Hatfield, and Mark Tucko looking to try to make a run for top 8 here.
Yeah, I mean the only out that could have been